Hello everybody, welcome to my first impressions video on Magic the Gathering Arena. So some of you have asked for this. I wanted to talk about it a little bit because of course I used to play a lot of Magic and I've gotten more and more into Eternal. I still do videos like Elder Dragon Hoedown, as you may or may not know, but I obviously wanted to come back and check out Magic Arena, no question. I mean, this is an interesting kind of offering from Wizards of the Coast that is not supposed to replace Magic Online, but is very much bringing their digital game experience more in line with things like Hearthstone or Faeria or Shadowverse, Eternal, all of these kinds of digital card games. I like it, but I'm going to go over a few general things. So you'll see down here we have all of our quests. So it does have quests much like Eternal or any of those other games. So you get like rewards. This is a weekly reward where you get, for your first 15, you get a pack every 5, 10, 15 wins. You can get cards for every time that you win. There's only rewards for the first 4 that are actually worthwhile. After that, you just get common cards. And I'll go over that in just a little bit more in a minute. The first 4, it starts off where you get 200 some gold, and then it goes down to 50 for your next wins, and you can get uncommons, rares, and they can be upgraded. So the first 4 wins are definitely worthwhile. You get a little bit of gold and some stuff out of them. It takes 1,000 gold to buy any packs from the store, and the last thing that you get is you get a quest here, which can be 225 gold, 300 gold, or 500 gold, which to me feels like a big difference. Like that's a little bit of a problem just because of the fact that I've had a really hard time acquiring cards. This is one of the downsides of this system so far, is the cards are quite difficult to acquire. And the difference between 225 gold and 500 gold is pretty big. I've been playing currently for about at this point, about 20 hours of game time on stream and off stream. That being said, I have barely enough to do any modifications to any of the decks because my draws out of my packs have been pretty medium, as in I drew a couple of induced amnesias, which are unplayable. So let me just show you right here. Induced amnesia, things like that, Fray Insanity. And you might go, well, I mean, obviously, the thing that you would want to do is get rid of those cards, right? Why would you hold on to cards like Fray Insanity or Induced Amnesia? Well, that's kind of the issue. You do not get to dust them or shift them, or however you'd like to use the terminology. There's no way to get rid of extra cards. You open what you open, and those are the cards that you have. Period. They have this system of wild cards here. This is an uncommon one, so you'll see them in kind of like a white, which is common. Then you'll see very much like the actual rarities on the card. So you'll see like white for common, and then you'll see this blue silver for uncommon, gold being rare, and then of course kind of the weird amber, I guess, for mythic. So you will have mythic wildcards as well, and those can be anything. So you can use those to make new cards, and that's a really sweet little system. I like it a lot. The problem is, of course, that, like I said, you don't get a lot of them, and having to be stuck with the rest of the cards that you open does make it feel like if your opens aren't very good, it's going to be very difficult to make a deck, and it's going to be hard to craft the deck that you want because the opens that you get might not correspond to a play type that you like. You might get your first Mythic and have it be really good. It might be Hazoret. Sweet. Awesome. I don't like aggro. Well, I'm kind of stuck. Like, I can't get rid of my Hazoret even to get, like, a couple of rares. I just have to keep it. The bigger problem that I had with that as well is when you see this. I was kind of okay with that. I didn't mind. So what happens then when you get more than 4? When you get more than 4, then it'll gray out the card when you get it and show that you already have at least 4 of them. And that goes towards unlocking the vault, which we have not unlocked yet. We have our first vault at 85%, so that's about 20 hours of gameplay over 3 different days. It seems like it's better if you just maximized your playtime, so you did the first 4 wins. You could probably do it in 20 hours or less, but just spread out over more days. I've just been grinding a lot because I like it, and I would like to keep playing it, even though it's really, really hard for me to make anything worthwhile so far. But in any case, when you go more than 4, you get a little bit of percentage. For commons, it's 0.1%. So you need 1,000 commons to unlock the vault. That's not 1,000 commons that you can get rid of. That's 1,000 extra commons that you've already opened at random. Little steep. They're not great. You do get 4% for every rare that for every pack that you open. So packs themselves will help unlock the vault, and you get them for other cards as well. I'm not sure exactly what it is for things like uncommons and rares because I obviously don't have 4 of them yet. So I don't know what it is for mythics, uncommons, rares. I don't know those rates off the top of my head. The problem that I have, especially with this, I was a little unhappy with it. I got more unhappy, unfortunately, when I realized, let's take a look at a card like Evolving Wilds. Wait, I have 6. Cards that exist across different sets, you have to collect from both sets. So even though you will never ever be able to use more than 4, and you only ever need 4 at maximum to build all of your decks, because of course, like all digital games, you can share the 4 across multiple decks, you have to craft 8 Evolving Wilds now. Or if it's, for example, Sailor, this one at least has different art. If you have Sailor of Means, I actually, not knowing this, crafted 4 Sailor of Means, because I needed them for a deck. I crafted up to 4. I think I already had 2 or 3. And I crafted the rest, and then I opened a Sailor of Means and realized that it wasn't grayed out because it was from the other set. So you get stuck with these kinds of cards. Same with Legion Conquistador. Anything that's reprinted, you'll end up having to have multiples of sets of 4, even though you'll never need them, and none of them can go towards unlocking your vault. Kind of an issue for me, because that's really unfortunate. They basically just make cards more expensive. Cards that you have 4 of already don't go towards unlocking the vault, even if you open a 5th, 6th, 7th one. Not super happy about that. And it does feel a little glacial. I've gotten about right now, at this point, the weekly rewards reset once, so I did get extra packs that way. So I have, across 2 weeks, quote-unquote, worth of packs because this reset, I had opened 6 packs, and then another 3 from the actual rewards so far. No, sorry, I apologize. Only 2 more, so it's been 8. I've opened 8 packs in total. I haven't opened a 3rd pack. We're halfway there. So across 3 days, you get a little less than a pack a day, not including these weekly rewards. To me, that just is a little bit too stingy for me when you don't have a good way of breaking down the cards afterwards to make your own deck. So that's my big complaint with it so far. It's a little bare bones. You have 1 game mode, you have Constructed, and you get to pick which deck you'd like to play. It starts off with all of these decks. I added in Approach, but you start off with these 10 decks in different colors right off the bat. And they're decent enough. They're certainly a little bit of fun. You've got some like green-black Explore deck that is kind of neat. I really enjoyed playing the Golgari Exploration. It's not necessarily the best deck, but it's really fun. You have Legion of Vampires for white-black, and Dinosaurs in red-green. You've got Enigma Drake with lots of spells in blue-red. So there's some very cool things. I really like the Cat deck, which was one of the things that I tried making right away. So there's a few different fun little decks. You don't get to go to the store yet. Things like purchasing gems and purchasing packs are unavailable except through the actual in-game currency, which is another problem with, right now, at least in the closed beta, earning cards. That being said, I mean, I'm sure it won't be as big of a deal once they get out of that. So some of these problems that I'm talking about are going to be corrected. I'm hoping that they realize that, you know, having 8, 12, 16 of a card, you don't need to have that, and they'll let you use those towards unlocking the vault at least. I would like to see some way of being able to do that, because it's a bit of a problem. Beyond that, the actual gameplay is pretty fun. It operates relatively well. There are a few other minor complaints that I have. There's a really cool system where you can have full control. So full control is kind of nice. It's turned on by using Control and Shift, and that will enable full control, and it's then just basically becomes Magic Online. You have to wait for every single passive priority, which is really, really nice in this kind of a shell. It like makes it a really complex gaming environment, which we all would like from Magic. Magic being a very intricate game. I know a lot of people really don't like to have it dumbed down, and this one does a really good job so far of not really dumbing it down and handling all of the intricacies of Magic while also looking a little bit better than Magic Online, and hopefully handling in a little more of a modern way. So that's a very huge positive on that side. One downside of this, there's no real solution. This is something that Wizards is going to struggle with, and we're going to struggle with for a very long time. And Magic is a complex game, but these games are also designed in such a way that they want to be accessible. And a lot of people are going to be talking about things like mobile ports. Well, one thing is that it's going to be hard for them. I'm not sure how they'd implement full control on a mobile port. I'm sure that there's some kind of user interface that they could try to do. But if you do it for mobile as well, Magic being very complicated, you can take a lot of time for your turns. And here's a really good example. So I apologize doing this through an opponent, but we sat down for a game, and I wanted to see how long it takes for you to actually time out. And as you'll notice, this video is probably going to be shorter than the actual amount of time that it takes you to time out if you don't play anything right off the start. So if your opponent comes in and then immediately gets called away, or their connection drops or something like that, you're going to be wasting at least a full 5 minutes on that. Very similar to Magic Online. Magic Online has a 10-minute timeout, but it does make it very difficult to imagine somebody at like an office on their lunch break playing Magic Online on their phone, where a game can take an hour. Where you might have 10, 15 minutes spent on the first 4 turns of the game if your opponent is slow, or you're having problems with your internet connectivity, and you just have that much time to be stolen up by the game. So, little bit of an issue there, but there's not really a solution per se. That's just something to keep in mind. This looks a lot like Hearthstone. It looks a lot like Eternal, but it's still Magic, and it still has some of those basic problems as, say, like a mobile game that any Magic product is going to be if it's faithful. If it's faithful to Magic, it's going to have problems with some portability, because doing, say, a best of 3 where you can take 5 minutes on the first 2 turns of the game, you're going to run into problems there. Like, that's just going to be a big issue. There's not much that you can do about that. You can't sit down for an hour and a half on your phone and play a match of Magic. So, something to keep in mind with that. One thing that it does have as well, because you do take a lot of time on your turn, you've got quite a long turn, but on your opponent's turn, it's felt really fast. They compensate for that, like where it'll time down very, very quickly. So if you're playing a deck with a lot of counter spells, then you're going to have a big issue actually resolving your spells in time to stop your opponent from doing what they're doing. You don't get a lot of time to think when you're trying to counter their stuff. And it's a way to try and keep the pace of the game going. It's a good thing. So what have they done to counteract that? Something that I kind of like, but it is a very complex system. It takes a little bit of getting used to, and the first time that I saw it, I was really confused because my opponent was timing out, but not timing out, and it was really bothering me. So what it is every single turn that you don't go to your rope, the little circle around your avatar, you will end up getting a pip on this little bar at the bottom. And that bar, once you get 3, fills up and gives you an extra little timeout. And that's the little hourglass. So however many of those you have, it will add to your timer once it runs down. So when you run down, it'll then say timeout used in big letters, and then you will have it reset for another 30 seconds and give you a little bit more time. So it can give you some advantages for a counterspell deck and give you a chance to give you incentive to keep moving the game along, which I'm really happy with. I'm glad that they found some kind of solution to that. I do think that's something that they could do with the first turns kind of problem, where somebody can take an exceptionally long time early in the game when there's really not a lot going on. I do think that there maybe should be a system where if you're timing out, not only do you lose your pip, but it also, much like Hearthstone, will almost immediately start you on your timeout. And then if you play, cool, you get your time back. Like it resets that clock back to the full 2 minutes. But other than that, it would actually start with you already on your rope. So if you've timed out entirely from a turn, it will start you on your rope and you have to play something to get your full turn. I think that that's a better solution because right now, it can feel very agonizingly slow when somebody starts timing out on you, and it can lead to some griefing, which I've seen a little bit of. I didn't get to capture it on camera, and I apologize. I'm so sorry for that, my opponent, where I did it to them, but I needed to have something to show you and to give an idea and actually time it and figure it out for everybody. So those are some of my initial impressions of the game. It definitely has some work to be done. There's a lot of things that need to come into place. We're going to need to find, like, limited. I want to see some drafting and sealed and how they do that. They're saying that they're making adjustments to the currency to make it a little bit easier to acquire cards. And I would like to see some of that as well, or at least to know what the prices are going to be for packs so that we have an idea of, okay, well, if it's going to be slow to acquire cards through the in-game currency, what else can I do so that I can play more decks? Because I'd really like to have fun with this, and for me, I like brewing new decks, and I can't do that right now. So I have a little bit of a problem with that side of things. I don't like playing the same deck over and over and over. I like playing a large variety of decks and doing all kinds of weird things, and I can't really set that up right now under this current system because there's no way to buy packs, and there's not a way to continuously grind gold. You can only grind common cards, which are really just worth nothing. I would need 1,000+ common cards that I already have 4 of to get the vault opened. That's just not going to happen. So I want to see some of those kinds of things change, and they are saying that they're changing them, so hopefully that will be a little bit of an improvement. But it's got a lot going for it. I think that it looks very modern. The art's awesome. There's some minor problems with your lands shifting around as you click them once you get a large portion of lands, but there's a lot of really cool things that are going on here, and I think that a lot of those issues are going to be solved coming out of the beta. So there we go. I hope that you enjoyed learning a little bit about my first impressions about Magic Arena. Now, I'm sure that another thing that you'd like to see is a little bit of the game in action, and I'm going to play a villainous deck. You know me, I love my control decks, and I want to play a little bit of Approach. I've managed to grind out enough where I did get double Approach of the Second Sun at this point. I also crafted 4 Supreme Wills so that I would have a little bit of counter magic and dig, and then I took all of the different cycling kind of cards and a few different removal cards and things and put them together into a deck here. So we've got some Seeker of Insights, some Sensors and Opts. We have strategic planning and to dig for cards, Forsake the Worldly, because there was a fair bit of enchantment removal. I think that I need to take this out, though, and maybe run like another strategic planning. Problem is, I do not actually have a way to make any more. Even though it's a common, I'm just stuck not able to make it. So I can't do that. But we've got like Forsake the Worldly to cycle. Renewed Faith is a card that I really need more of. That would be a great card for me to make. Cancels and Countervailing Winds, which has been very good in this deck. Just a better council most of the time because you can cycle it away. And it costs less blue. And then we've got some Sailor of Means for blocking. And eventually, of course, we're just going to try and approach the second sun, our opponent. I did get lucky enough to open a Settled Wreckage, which was really cool for me. And yeah, I'm just going to be running through that. I did put in, they have an Ipnu Rivolt, or Rivolet. I don't know how to say this. I'm terrible at it. But I've got the Ipnu, which was a cool card that they let you have right away. And fun with Approach to the Second Sun, you've got to remember that you can actually mill the top 4 cards of your deck and put them into your graveyard so that you can get closer to your Approach to the Second Sun. If you haven't seen Approach to the Second Sun, the way this deck wins is just by casting this. When you cast it the first time, it basically adds like a little counter to your game in a way where it now knows that if you cast the second one, you win. So you cast it, you gain 7 life, and you shuffle it into the 7th card from top in your library. So you just slide it in there. And when you get this, when you play it again, then you just win the game. So if you've already cast 1, then the game is won. So it's pretty sweet. If they counter the first one, then this is also an important thing. When you're playing the deck, make sure if you play Approach the first time and they use counter magic on it, unless you really, really, really need the 7 life, just let it happen. The second one is what's important, because the first one says if Approach to the Second Sun was cast from your hand and you've cast another spell named Approach from the Second Sun from this game, which means that it doesn't have to resolve. You can let it get countered, and when you play the second Approach to the Second Sun, you still win the game. So it's fine sometimes to let them counter that, waste some a counter spell, and then hold up your counter magic for your second approach, where you can try and win the game. Now, obviously, I'm going to need to try and get more of these eventually, but I don't have any gold wild cards, so I've got to wait a little bit of time to get extras. And in case, let's fire it up, and I'm going to play a game for you.